Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast and also a video cast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You get more information and find out about our previous shows and future shows on our website, which is, I guess, right behind me, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Dallas McKinney, a singer, dancer, and freelance entertainer. And Dallas, you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay, that is Dallas. And I think you're going to find Dallas an interesting guy in that he does a lot of different things, including heading up his own production company. And we'll talk about that in a second, Dallas, but I should mention that you worked as a singer, dancer, and performer at sea with Royal Caribbean Cruise on ballroom tours with Utah Ballroom Dance Company, with several Cedar Fair parks in the United States, and more. So the question, Dallas, you grew up as a kid where?
I grew up in Hickory, North Carolina.
Oh, so you're from this area originally. And
I
when you
am, yes.
and when you were growing up in Hickory, North Carolina, did you always know you wanted to be an entertainer?
No, I actually went to school believing that I was going to be a baseball player. Played baseball for 9 years of my life, and that's what I was going to do. I was going to go to college to be a baseball player.
Okay, and what position did you play?
I was center field.
Okay, so what got you out of baseball and into entertainment?
Well, when I got to high school, I took a theater class my 10th grade year. And after I took a theater class, it was kind of the rest of it was kind of history. I kind of fell in love with it, took my first dance class, and it just kind of all went from there. I did less and less baseball and did more theater, more dance, and started taking vocal lessons. And that's how it came to be.
I know that's always a problem in the high school level, especially that when you have, I guess, two different directions you're going in. So probably the baseball coach wanted to play ball and was kind of upset. And then
Yeah.
the theater people wanted to do theater. I guess for a while you could do both, but at some point in time you had to give up one or the other.
Yep. I had to, and I had to give up baseball. I had to do it.
What that was a shift. Do you remember then? So you were started acting. That was when you started acting in high school after the theater
Mhm.
class. Do you remember
Yeah.
the first play you were in?
The very first play I was in was called Bye Bye Birdie, the
Okay.
musical.
And what was your role?
I was just an ensemble member. I was a dancer in the ensemble for the production, and I loved every minute of it. Loved all of it.
Okay. So that was in what, 10th grade?
Yes, it was in 10th grade.
Okay. So in 10th grade, so then at that point in time, you continued acting in all the theater productions in high school.
Mhm.
So what was your favorite role?
Um, so far, my favorite role to date, I got to play Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, and I tend to grow very close to that character. And really closely following behind that is Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Wow. Where'd you do that?
I did both of those productions in Valdez for Old Colony Players.
Okay. Where's that located?
Old Colony Players is in Valdez, North Carolina.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah. So,
Yep.
oh, I would love to have seen that. Was that the musical version of the Quasimodo? That was
Yeah, it was the musical version of Hunchback of Notre Dame as well. Yeah.
oh, great show. So they must have done some pretty ambitious stuff at that school or
Yeah.
that facility.
hmm
So you continued acting to high school. Did you go on to there to study or to become a theater
So
major?
right out of high school, I went to college. I went to Catawba Valley Community College, and I went to go get my Associate of Fine Arts. And before I finished my Associate of Fine Arts, I got my very first professional contract to work with Royal Caribbean. And so I actually worked for Royal Caribbean and went to school at the same time. My very first, or excuse me, my very last year of college, I did online while I did Royal Caribbean.
So how long were you with Royal Caribbean?
I was with Royal for about 2.5 years.
Okay, talk about that experience. I think I told you up there, we're going to an upcoming cruise. And
Hmm.
so as a performer on Royal Caribbean, what was that life like?
So the life was amazing, honestly. Living on board the ship, I had never taken a cruise before in my life. So getting the contract to work on the cruise was a whole different experience than honestly what I ever thought it was going to be. My very first contract on board Royal Caribbean was with DreamWorks. And basically what that means is I performed as the DreamWorks characters on board of Royal Caribbean. So I was like Alex the Lion from Madagascar and Kung Fu Panda from the movie Kung Fu. I was Shrek from the movie Shrek. Played these characters and brought them to life, and walked around the ship, did shows with them, and performed as them. And my very first contract was for 13 months, and I lived on board Oasis of the Seas.
And that's certainly a very demanding thing. I mean, you were working quite long hours, I guess, or long days, was it?
Yeah, the days were pretty long, and it's a lot of work. It really is, because you're not only doing, of course, you're doing the performance side, but you also had to do all of the rules and regulations and procedures of the boat. So I had to also follow through with all of the codes and all of the drills, had to learn what all of those were because I had no idea what those were. And it was a very big learning experience for me.
So that was your first ship. Were you on any other ships, or you stayed with that one company the whole 2.5 years?
Well, I stayed with Oasis of the Seas for 13 months. Right after that, I took a 2 week break. That was my little vacation in between ships, and jumped on board of Voyager of the Seas, and did Voyager of the Seas for 11 months. And it was supposed to be for 13 months as well. But I actually went home on injury leave. And that was also a really fun experience. It was a really, really big growing moment for me in my life. I had to learn a lot. I had to learn a lot really quick. So,
And for the benefit of folks who don't realize how much you had to learn or how much you had to do, talk about a typical day on a ship. What you'd be doing as an entertainer. What did that entail?
so a typical day would be um, we if it was a sea day, which means basically we were at sea the entire day, sailing from one place to another. Um, I would wake up early, wake up at about 6 a.m. and I would go and get ready for my first show. My first show would actually be at 8 a.m. in the
Well,
morning, and it was a DreamWorks breakfast. So it was a meet and greet for kids and families to come to a restaurant on board the ship and watch an entire show that the DreamWorks characters put on for them as their entertainment while they ate breakfast and enjoyed family time. Um, the show itself was about an hour and a half. Started at 8 o'clock and it would end around 9:30, maybe 10 in the morning. And right after that, I would bring everything back. And I would maybe have an hour and a half break. That would be kind of like my lunch, so to speak. And then I would get ready for the next venture. The next venture would I would be going up to the daycare, which was on the top floor, and I would be meeting and greeting with children and teaching them kung fu moves as Kung Fu Panda as a whole nother show. And then at night, I would do an entirely different show. They would have an entire uh, themed dance night on board, and I would perform as Alex the Lion from Madagascar, and I would perform on board with all of the guests on that level at the dance party and just kind of ignite the party, get it going, get the guests going. Then I would have to change from Alex the Lion and go back out and then do an entire dance show as myself. And so a regular day would be about 3 or 4 shows.
I mean, just listen to it. It's like kind of overwhelming. And I guess not that you were prepared for it, but I guess you grew into it over the years that after you doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever do
And
that? Yeah. I'm sorry.
well, growing up, I in college and in high school, I was some sort of a workaholic. So I like to think of me being a workaholic, trying to work as many hours as I can all the time at a regular retail job, kind of helped me build up the ability to juggle so many tasks at the same time and do a long day like that. So that really helped me.
Now, would you ever want to do that again on a
I would
ship?
love to.
On
I
a
would
ship?
love to. Yeah, I took a break from ships for a little bit because I was tired of living on a boat, living in the water for a while. So I just wanted to take a break from that for a little bit and kind of live on land and do some shows on land for a little bit. But I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to go back sometime soon.
And talk a little bit about then getting back on land or now in Western North Carolina. So you're operating out of the Hickory area. Talk about what
Mhm.
you've done then. So you started this production company. It's just two guys. Is that correct? Is the name of the
Yes.
company? And how long have you had that company going?
So, Just Two Guys Productions has been around for a little over 2 years now. And we started Just Two Guys Productions during the big COVID pandemic outbreak. Basically, because we just wanted to do something. We were tired of staying at the house, we were tired of being closed off from the world. So we started doing singing cabarets, musical singing cabarets at a local brewery and pub. And we messaged a lot of our theater friends in the area and asked if they wanted to sing a song and make a show out of it. And so we would have about 20 to 25 singers, and we would put them in a lineup and they would all sing a different song. We would all get together and perform these songs in a lineup and make an entire show and an evening out of it. And our very first one we did, um, we had about 80 people show up to this function. And we started doing one every other month after that. And it ended up getting so big that we people wanted us to do different things. People wanted us to do all kinds of different performance opportunities and events, and we decided to make it a legit official business.
Listen to this. I'm just sorry you're not close to the Asheville area because I don't think we
Mhm,
have anything quite like this. It's pretty cool, but you
mhm.
started this and by two guys, you talked just two guys. It's you and the other person is
The other person, his name is Matthew Brown.
okay. We'll give him a shout out. And so he's your partner in this as well.
Yes, he is my business and life partner.
Okay. So talk if you would, Dallas, how you went then from these cabarets, then you were telling me off the air to now start doing some shows. And I guess over the last period of time, what was the first show you produced as just two guys?
So we went from singing cabarets, and we did an event. Basically, we labeled it as a gender bent singing cabaret. And basically, what that entailed is females could sing male covers of songs, and males could sing female covers of songs, something they know they would never sing before in their lives, but they had the opportunity to do so for one night. We did that, and we ended up having three or four of our performers show up to this function dressed as um, drag performers. They were dressed up in drag and they were singing as an entire different alter ego, a whole different person. And people asked us if we ever thought about doing drag shows. So we continued to also bring drag shows into different various places. Um, After that, people wanted us to do musicals and plays. And our very first play we did was a basically a comedy straight play show of two men pretending to be bartenders in different parts of the world and how that affected their lives. Um, so going from that, growing to where we are now, we just finished our very first musical. So we went from doing solely just plays to now producing full musicals with a live band.
which is I'm very excited to hear that because I don't know about you, Dallas, but in this area, at least Asheville area, live bands are becoming more and more extinct. You know that nobody's
Hmm.
willing to pay for it. It's a shame. So I don't know about you, but even if you just have a piano player, that's all you need as opposed to canned music. So your stuff, then the one you just did, that was you had a live band with that
Hmm.
nonsense. So where do you do
Yeah.
nonsense at?
We produced and performed Nonsense in Hickory, North Carolina at a venue called the Brookford Community Building. And we did it for one weekend. We did it a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday matinee show.
And have that go?
It went very well. We had about 225 people come and see the show within the weekend. And it was a very nice experience. No one had done that show in a very long time, so people that were big fans of that show were really excited that it was happening. And the venue that we are doing stuff in also has not had something happening in that venue for a very long time, let alone a musical. So we brought our the very first musical to that venue as well.
And the venue, what you mentioned already, seats how many people?
The venue itself seats about 200 people on a regular day. So if we were to sell out a show, it could house about 200 people for one night.
Well, very exciting because again, one of the problems in Nashville, it's very sad, is there are less and less venues, and one just closed recently or is in the process of
Mm,
closing. So, there's not a lot of space, and to have 200 people, that's pretty exciting. And have to give a shout out to a friend of mine who was in Nonsense with you folks. I'm sorry I missed it, but talk about the cast if you would, who were with you with Nonsense.
yeah, the individual that you're speaking about is Bradshaw Call, and he used to do a lot of stuff in Asheville. He lives in Morganton now, but he was our lead. He was amazing in our production of Nonsense, and he is actually directing our next show that we're doing. So we have moved him from being a actor in a show to being a director for us for one of our shows. So we're very excited to have Bradshaw Call direct one of our shows.
It's funny, I ask you the same question, and I'll ask Bradshaw eventually this question too. But so you've acted, you've danced, you performed, now you direct, you produce. Do you have a preference as to performing or kind of being behind the scenes?
Well, I always love being on stage. I don't think I can pass that up for anything. Um, and I my regular day job right now, I perform on the weekends and I perform for Cedar Fair. So I perform for Carowinds in Charlotte right now, and I do their production shows, and I'm a singer for their Winterfest season. And so um, I couldn't just produce and direct. I had to be on stage as well. So my regular day job is performing on a stage.
Because when I ask a lot of directors, especially who are actors, and Bradshaw, I'd be curious his reaction. But I love them so much as an actor, and then they become directors. The reality, they don't tell us, but they don't have to memorize the lines that way. So that's that part is, I guess, easier. But what a shame, because if I came up, well, you started talking about the show. I'd love to see it. What's the show going
Mhm.
to be that Bradshaw is directing?
He is directing Steel Magnolias that we're doing, and we're doing that next year in March is when it opens.
Okay, something to look forward to. But so he won't be
Hmm.
performing in that. He'll just be directing it.
Yeah, he is just directing it.
Okay, very exciting. So talk a little bit, Ben, again, back to nonsense. So you did this just one weekend. Was there a reason you only did one weekend, or you just wanted to see how it would go?
So yeah, we played around with a lot of moving parts for Nonsense. So Nonsense was it's a very big musical. We used a live band for the first time. We also decided to do it as a dinner theater show as well. So people had the options to buy regular seating or also buy a dinner seat and have dinner while they watch the show. And so um, with dinner and with a live band
Sure.
and all of the moving parts, we wanted to see if we could even do it. We wanted to see if we attempted this, could we do it right? Um, Also, with us still being fairly new, we're still building ourselves up. So we knew only doing one weekend would be good for us to do for now. But as time goes on, if we can sell out a show or sell out a weekend, then of course we will add more shows. Hopefully we get to that point sometime soon.
Magnolias, it will be what? Also one weekend?
Yeah, right now Magnolias is for one weekend. We're doing it as a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday matinee, and we're also doing it as a dinner theater show as well.
Because I give folks so much credit. Can you imagine doing all this work and to only do 3 performances? So even talk about nonsense, and a lot of people don't realize this. To put on nonsense, how long was the preparation period before you did the show?
So the preparation period, we started preparing for the show before we even had auditions for the show. We had to play in the factor of what the set was going to look like, who was going to build it, and who we were going to hire to direct the band, let alone direct the actors and teach them what they're singing. There's a lot of moving parts going in with a band director, all of the instrumentalists, a vocal director teaching the actors how to sing. Then there's the actors and, of course, the director. We also have a stage director, a lighting designer, and a sound designer. So, with all of those people, we had to set in stone who those people were before we even had auditions for the show. Um, and then going forward from that, when we had auditions for the show, we had to make it work with the rehearsal process, um, the rehearsal venues, accumulating a conflict calendar based on everyone's lives because everyone has different lives and we're not professionals, so we have to accommodate everyone else's actual full-time job. So a couple months before the show even happened, I would say about 5 to 6 months of preparation for the show to happen.
And how many pieces were in the band?
We had a piano player, we had a drum player, and we had a percussion player. We also had a bassist. We had a bass player. So we had those four as our band. Um, we could have used a total of 8 to 10 instrumentalists. We just couldn't find the musicians available at that point in time. So we had to go with four of them.
Okay, but that's really to your credit, especially a new theater company putting on a
Hmm.
musical is pretty impressive. To get that as your first event. You'll
Hmm.
do Steel Magnolias. Now, have you cast that? You wouldn't cast it yet. That'll be cast when? Steel
So
Magnolias.
we are actually having auditions for Still Magnolias at the end of January.
Okay.
It's the last weekend in January. Or excuse me, it's the last week of January, and we're going to do it on a Sunday and Monday.
Okay. And I'll talk about getting the word out, or I'll mention it now. On Facebook, I have a page called Entertainment, and sign up for it. It's free, but you can put all notice about your auditions, about your stuff on there. I'd like to see more stuff from you in that
Hmm.
area. And so you're doing Magnolias down the road. Do you have any other plans?
Yeah, we actually just announced that we have an entire season planned out for next year. So our production season where we're doing live theater, we're doing Still Magnolias, we're doing a show called Red, White, and Tuna, and
Okay.
this show is a play, and it's played by two individuals playing 12 characters apiece, and they are putting on a play. It's a comedy show, and they're talking about their lives of different people in a small town of Tuna, Texas, and that is happening in May.
Will you be one of the characters, do you think?
I will not. It's
Okay.
actually being played by two women, and these
Oh,
two are they're phenomenal. They This is actually the third show of the series that we're doing. They've played the other two shows leading up to this one, the other two were Greater Tuna and
Right.
Tuna Christmas. So this is the third show. It's like a kind of like a sequel.
Because it just amazes me that people play those two parts, to 12 parts. Have you ever had to do that, by the way? Have you had to play more than one part in a show?
Yeah, I've had to play more than one part, but never 12.
12, can you imagine? What's the most number of parts you ever played?
Maybe six. Maybe
What was that?
six.
What was the play? Do you
Young
remember?
Frankenstein.
Okay, yeah, I was in that myself, but fun play. So you had
Hmm.
six parts in it too. Love to have you bring that to the area sometime. It's
Oh, that would be
yeah,
fun.
a big play. They just did it in Hendersonville. They did a very nice job on it. Young
Hmm.
Frankenstein. So yeah, you were starting to talk about the series. So you mentioned a couple of the plays. What else? Do you know the rest of the season?
Yeah, so Tuna is happening in May. We are moving on to August, and in August we're doing the show of Sordid Lives.
Okay,
Hmm.
fun
And
show.
then in October we are doing the Rocky Horror Show. So we're going to attempt to do a big musical next year. Um, and we're going to make it our Halloween show and to end out our season of theater. And we're going to end with the Rocky Horror Picture Show and see what we can do. Hopefully, we can do it justice.
Well, just listening to this, I have to say I'm impressed, Alice, because you started out, no, I can't even say you started out relatively small because you started out, you know, you just jumped right into it, without you didn't do like a two-person play initially. You did a fairly ambitious first play. I have to
Mhm.
ask you also, you're telling me off the air that one other event you're doing, which I think is really cool, and that's coming up in December. You want to talk about that event?
Yeah, the event that we are doing in December is on December 9th, and it is a second chance all inclusive prom. And it is on a Saturday night. We are doing it in Hickory, North Carolina at the Brookford Community Building, and we're turning the entire building into a prom venue. And we're basically throwing this prom for everyone to go back to prom for another chance, a second chance of reliving those days, making new memories, or going to prom with someone they never went to prom with that they never got to make those memories with. And we have a professional photographer that's going to be there. They're going to be taking prom photos. Since this is an adult prom, we do have a mobile bartender that'll be there for the night. And then we have a live DJ, a dance floor, and it's just gonna be a fun night. It's gonna be a fun prom night.
It sounds it. What time does it start?
It starts at 8 p.m. and it ends right at midnight, so it's for
Okay,
4 hours.
too late for me, but I love the idea. I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So if folks want to find out about that prom or other stuff that you guys are doing, what's the best bet?
They can go to, we have a Facebook page. Our Facebook is just Two Guys Productions, and two is spelled 2WO.
Okay, I was going to ask you. So that's the best bet. Are you anywhere else, or that's the best way to find you?
Yeah, we also have an Instagram, and on our Instagram, they can also search that same title, Just Two Guys Productions. It'll pop right up for them. We also have an email. It's just two guys PROD for productions. It's just abbreviated a little bit, and that is at gmail.com. We post most of our events that are happening on the Just Two Guys Facebook page. So that would be the best bet for people if they would like to see what we're doing in the area or what events that we're bringing. That would be the best bet, as well as the ticket link for the prom and everything that that includes is on there.
Now it's kind of interesting. I cut you off a little bit before, but you mentioned the cast of the one show you did, Nonsense. Who else was in that cast with Bradshaw?
Oh, we have Bradshaw Call. We had Andrew Turnbull. Andrew Turnbull is a Hickory native that used to live in Morganton, moved to New York for a little bit, and then came back to Morganton. Clay Hennessy, who was also from Morganton, went to school in New York and came back from New York to live his life in Morganton. Jadon Cummings who is from Statesville, North Carolina. He was driving from Statesville to rehearse and to do the play every day with us. So that was a drive for him. And
Now,
then Nathan Algram, who lives in Hickory, North Carolina. He actually is a ballroom dance teacher and has danced ballroom for majority of his life. And it was five men playing a cast of five nuns.
fun play. Out of all the stuff you've done, which is quite a lot of stuff you've done, do you have a favorite thing? In other words, performing or running a theater company with your partner, or doing other kinds of things? Do you have a favorite thing you do out of all the stuff you do?
Out of all of the stuff that I do, I would have to say that performing, me personally being on stage is very freeing to me. Of course, I have direction and things that I have to do on stage, but the majority of me being on stage is what I make in the moment, not necessarily what someone is telling me to do. And it's very freeing for me to be myself, my true authentic self on stage and just to be me. It's a nice getaway for me.
Moving forward down the road, do you have it? What are you thinking you're going to be doing, say, a year from now or 5 years from now? Do you have any grandiose plans?
Well, I'm hoping 5 years from now that Just Two Guys Productions will uh, be able to make enough money to sustain itself and to sustain my everyday life. Um, so right now, the company itself makes enough to sustain itself as its own entity. But 5 years down the road, I would love for it to be able to hire more people, for it to be able to um, pay everyone for their time, pay everyone what they're worth, and basically just be this big company that is the only thing I worry about in my life, and that is the only thing that I have to do because it's busy and it's blooming and blossoming. Um, I think 5 years down the road, that would be the ideal goal, is for me to solely worry about that.
Back to your high school days, did you ever think you'd be producing musicals and producing
Not
other
ever.
shows?
Nope.
Never.
Never ever.
Is Now give a shout out if you want to. The first theater course you took, is the teacher still around?
She is. Her name is Tara Blake.
Okay, we should give a
And she
shout
was
out to
my
her.
theater teacher. Oh yeah, she was my theater teacher at Fred T. Ford High School. She's basically the one that changed my life to be who I am today.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Just feel free to give a copy of the clip or send the clip to the teacher. Are you still in touch with her?
I am, yeah.
Okay, because it's so cool that you remember her and we recognized her. So if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be here today. So to wrap up again, Dallas, if we can just have you give the couple of the things you mentioned. Upcoming is December 9th. That's a Saturday night?
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a prom. And people can find out about that and get tickets how?
They can go to the Facebook page and they'll see an entire description about the prom event. There's a ticket link on there, and they just click on that ticket link. It takes them straight to it. It gives the ticket breakdown from someone that's just wanting to go to prom by themselves, someone wanting to go to prom as a couple, and someone that wants to add prom photos onto their. They can buy prom photos in advance and go ahead and pay for the package.
And I love it. And do they have to wear a tuxedo?
Yeah, so it is a formal event. So as long as they are dressed for prom, we are good to go.
Okay, I love the idea. So you go for December, it'll be a prom. Then we go into March. Is again the dates of that show is still Magnolias.
Yeah, Still Magnolias is the 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Okay, and if people want to keep in touch with you or find out what else you're doing, again, one last time you mentioned the Facebook page was what again?
Just Two Guys Productions.
Okay, and I want to thank you for being my guest on the show, Dallas. I think I saw you initially in Facebook. I'm just kind of blown away by, I had a clear blue sky. Two guys came and started doing stuff in Hickory, North Carolina area. That's great. I guess I don't know that area that well, but is there a lot of other theater going on in the area?
Of course we have the Hickory Community Theater in the area, and then surrounding those companies we have Old Colony Players that does theater. We have Foothills Performing Arts that does
Okay.
theater, and then we have the Green Room Community Theater that does theater.
Okay. Had you ever been with any of those?
I've
Any?
actually done a show for all of them before.
Oh, have you done shows with them?
Yeah, I
Okay,
have.
great. Well, I have to get out to the Hickory, North Carolina area and see you guys. And again, keep up the good work because I'm really kind of impressed with this.
Well,
And
thank you.
also give my regards to Bradshaw next time you see him. And I'd like
Mhm.
to also thank my producer, Cappy Setti, and hopefully we'll get to meet you in person sometime in the next near future. Okay, man. Thanks.
You got it. Thank you so much.